Well, hello there. This video is going to show a very detailed Hollywood waves look. The first part of this video is sped up, just simply to make it less than an hour. This look is not for everyone. This is intense. I did this on my mannequin and it took me an hour and 5 minutes. Now, when brides want this, typically we have enough time because we are allotted an hour of time. But when you are working with bridesmaids, you just simply do not have that kind of time. So there are little shortcuts that you can take. But to do this properly, you really need at least an hour. So you can see I'm going in here and I am taking small sections. I'm holding my curling iron horizontally. I am using a wand. I think that wand curls just hold better. As I'm wrapping, I am allowing the hair to twist around the wand. And you can see then that I am holding the curl. It does need to cool in its shape for a little while to ensure hold. Typically, if I were doing this on a bride, I would do a hot set. So I would be curling those, or I'd be pinning those curls in place right after I curl them. But for the sake of this video, I just wanted to keep it cleaner and not have too many things happening on the doll head. So I just held the curl for about 8 seconds. You can see each section is small. I don't want too much hair on there. To keep the curls all the same shape with consistent curls, they have to be small. And each curl is on base. Do you remember learning in beauty school, if you went to beauty school, about curling on base or off base? If you curled off base, you could curl above the section of hair that you're taking it, and that would give you increased volume at the root. If you curled off base below the section of hair, it would give you less volume. You can see here I am curling directly on that section of hair to give me a good amount of volume. Something else that you may not have noticed because the video is sped up is that I am prepping each section of hair first. So each section of hair is getting combed through so it's nice and smooth. Each section of hair is getting hit with a light hold heat protectant. And then after I'm done with an entire section, I go in and do a light hold working hairspray. I prefer to use Kenra. It's just consistently the best for me, in my opinion. The smell is not offensive. And as you know, we work in a lot of really tight spaces, so that's important. Back to the hair. You can see here, again, I am on base and look at how small my sections are. These are less than an inch wide, less than an inch tall. The reason I am keeping them so small is because I want those curls to be crisp. Okay, I want them to be crisp. I want them each to have the same shape. I want the curl pattern to be the same on every single curl. That is how we are going to get our ridges to lay evenly and not be kind of all over the place and waving all through the back of the head. You can see here I started my back combing process. So when I back comb, I lift the hair straight up off base. So I'm going straight up, and I like to use a little bit of texture powder at the root. And I'm using a comb and I am really pushing the back comb down flat against the head. It is key to keep your back comb nice and neat. If you go too far up the hair shaft and you make a mess of the hair, it is going to mess up your style. This can be really challenging for many people. They find it difficult to get the volume that they need. And I see a lot of messy back combing. For styles like this needs to be crisp. Keep it pushed tight against the scalp and it's enough. Between that and the product that you've used, that's enough. Another thing I want to point out here, you can see now that I am starting to curl off base, and I am not curling it close to the root. What I am doing, and you can see where I place my hand, because I don't want those waves to start too high up, I'm starting to lower where I start the curl, and I am matching that up with where the curl starts on the section beneath. So watch here, there's the back comb, and you'll see I'm leaving about, I don't know, it looks about 2 inches out here. And I'm starting that curl where the lower portion starts, so that, again, all of my curl ridges are going to be in the same spot. This is going to make it so much easier when I brush out this style. It's going to keep my waves smooth and perfect. Moving on to the side of the head. I broke this look up on the mannequin into 3 different sections. I do think that's probably the easiest way to go about this look. It just keeps it nice and clean. And even here in the front, I am backcombing. If you want to have consistent shape and consistent volume, you have to backcomb consistently. If you're not backcombing here, where people get nervous about backcombing near the face, but if you are not backcombing there, the hair is just not going to lay the same. The curls aren't going to be in the same curl pattern, and the hair is going to lay rather flat against the face. If you would like to have a soft volume, you have to have a backcomb in there. And I feel like it also gives a really nice base for these curls and for this look. If you worry about there being backcombing towards the face that you can see, it is very easy to go in afterwards and clean up right around the face. I like to use the back end of my 3-prong comb and just lightly pull out any backcombing you can see. It's very quick, very easy, and it really makes a huge difference in the style. And also matters here, you cannot be doing messy backcombing. It has to be pressed up against the scalp, nice and clean. And I think using a powder here, I think the video is slowing down here, so it'll start going slower and you'll see a little bit more of the curling. I would have liked it to just kept going fast, but that's just not how it worked for me. I am not a video editing pro yet by any means. So this was the best that I could do for this particular look. Again, you can see here, I have started curling off base because I do not want my waves to start too high on this doll's head. My curls are now starting about 2 inches down. Just like I did in the back, I want everything to remain the same. I'm making sure that my curls are starting in the same spot all around the head. And this is, that's part of the reason why I say this style takes a long time. This is an intensive style. This is not something that every bridesmaid can have. And even with brides, sometimes you need extra time. You just do, and you're going to have to tell them, this is not an hour look. For you, for your hair, for your texture, this is an hour and a half, and we have to charge accordingly. That is completely fine. That is something that we will 100% back you up on. Yes, they are paying premium rates, but you are a premium artist, and you should be charging accordingly. This look takes time. It takes precision, and it takes skill. This is not just a simple... I love when they're like, I just want curls. I just want curls. It's not a big deal. It shouldn't, is that going to be less? No, honey, it should be more, because it is going to take me a lot more time and a lot more elbow grease. My arms were aching after this. You can see here again, I am back towards the center. I'm just backcombing that very top layer. This is, again, where it's super important to keep that backcombing clean, crisp against the head. If you do not do that, it is going to be very messy and very difficult for you to get a nice, smooth crown area. After I back comb, I usually go in over the top and smooth through that very top layer to make sure that you're not seeing any back combing come through. And you can see with this layer, my curls have now come even farther down, right? Because I'm traveling from farther up the head down to, I would say, I like 2 inches above the occipital. And that is because I want to match the curls beneath it. And because I am traveling from farther up the head, I have to lower those down a little bit. You can see in some of these right where that curl pattern begins, and that right there, that's where I'm trying to match up. This seems so tedious, but it is just such an important part of this look. I do not think if you are trying to do this with a regular curling iron with a clamp, I just do not think you are going to get crisp enough, springy enough curls. The clamp really flattens the hair, forcing it to ribbon. When you are using a wand, the hair is twisting tightly around and it's really keeping that nice coiled shape. So yes, if you are giving this look to a bridesmaid and, she doesn't have a ton of hair, say her hair is fairly fine, you could do this with a clamp iron. It's going to be a lot faster. It's going to be less crisp, right? It's really just going to be soft, loose waves. And that is totally fine. That's also a beautiful look. And something you can deliver in 30 to 40 minutes. If they have thicker hair, though, that's really not as much of an option. When you are ribboning the hair with the clamp iron, that curl is just too loose. There isn't enough strength in the coils to keep a curl pattern. Their hair it's just too darn heavy for that. You have to go wand. I'm happy to discuss this. I think that wand versus clamp is such a huge conversation for bridal stylists. We all have our preferences. And let me tell you, I love using a clamp. I feel like it is quite honestly quite a bit faster. I can get really beautiful beachy waves with a clamp iron. I just don't think they work for this look. It's kind of a time and place type situation, right? So do with that what you will. Try it out. See the difference. I can tell you that right now, as I do the voiceover for this video, I recorded this, I think it's probably been at least 2.5 weeks. Life has happened. It's been at least 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks since I recorded this. This doll is still sitting in my office and looks pretty much the exact same. Those waves are in there and they are looking fly. And, granted, my doll isn't out dancing and sweating and doing all the things that brides do throughout the night, but I do think that the wand is what is contributing to the longevity of this style, as is really the products that we use. So I showed in the beginning the products that I am using on this doll. I'm using Powder Play by Big Sexy Hair for my powder. I'm using Kenra Thermal Heat Protectant for the prep. And Kenra, I think it's like a 13 or 14 medium hold hairspray to be spraying in between. I don't want to put my super hard hold on these curls yet. I need to be able to comb and brush through them. If I were to use that super heavy hold, I think Kenra's Strong is like 25. If I were to use the 25, it would be so darn difficult to get through these tight, crisp curls. Combing would be a bit of a nightmare, and I think we would find a lot more snarling, which is, not ideal. It would work with my doll because she doesn't have feeling in her head, but on a human, that could be quite painful, pulling through and combing through all that crispness. Now, for the tools that I'm using, I showed in the beginning of the video, but it was sped up, and I was already chatting about other things, so I'll tell you now. I am using a wide tooth comb to comb through this. I'm using a paddle brush only to get through the hair in the beginning. I am not going to brush this out. I am going to use a wide tooth comb. For my sectioning, I'm using, this is a pink pewter comb. I like it for sectioning and back combing. But anytime I have to pull the hair back, do any pinning, any shaping, I really much prefer my comb with the 3 prongs on the end. I use those 3 prongs constantly. But just to get that hair nice and crisp and tight against the scalp, I really do enjoy that pink pewter comb. I like the handle that is on there. It just makes it easy to use. And then the curling iron. So I use a T3. It is very difficult to see in this video, but this is the 1 inch and it is a straight barrel. It looks like, right now in this angle, it looks especially like it's one of those tapered ones, but it is not. It is a consistent all the way across 1 inch. I do enjoy the T3. I think that for traveling artists, it's really handy because, we just are carrying less. We're just carrying less. But you don't need it. There's plenty of other attachment options and brands out there, but people have asked, so there you have it. I do like the T3 for that. I would never invest in it for myself at my home because I just don't think it's worth it. I still have a Conair at home from, honestly, like the 90s, and it works just fine on my hair. You could also do, if you do not yet have a wand, you could do this with a curling iron that has a clamp, but you would have to have that clamp up the entire time that you're curling, and that would probably make your thumb ache a little bit. This was a solid 50 minutes of curling. Just picturing holding my thumb down on that clamp for 50 minutes I just can't even imagine. I do think that having a wand in your kit is necessary. It is a tool you need. So back to the hairstyle. Now you can see, so this front side, this is going to be my heavier side. I am going to have this waving away from her face. So you can see all of my curls are going the exact same direction. That is the other thing that is really big with this look. All the same direction. You can't be, going willy-nilly here. Keep it consistent, keep it sharp, all the same direction. For these front pieces, I like to pin these ones in. These are going to be the ones that are really going to shape away from the face. I do like to, while I'm working with the rest of the hair, keep these pieces pinned in place for a little bit because I manipulate them so much more than the rest of the hair later. I really want these to have super hold. So while I'm pinning, you'll see, or as I'm curling, you'll see right there, I just left it in place. I am looking for a pin now. And what I'm going to do for these front pieces, you will see, there it is, I am angling it back. So even though I am curling it horizontally, I am not changing anything about the way I curl the hair here. Once it comes out of that curl, I am angling it back and pinning it in place. Because I am going to be combing the hair and styling it away from the face, I'm pinning it in the way that I am going to be combing it. So you'll see that again here. You can see a couple of those vertical curls. If you're looking closely, you can see that the base is still horizontal. I have just twisted it and pinned it so that now it is resting in a direction away from the face. It's going to make it a lot easier for me as I style later because the curls are going to be directionally where I need them to be. If hopefully that makes sense. So finally, I bet you at this point I have been curling for solid 45 minutes. I am getting to the top of the head. You can see there I am. I am keeping that volume on the top, keeping, my base curl is giving me a lot of volume and keeping the volume there. I am just simply turning the curl to the side to pin it. At this point, you are probably going to want to rush because you're going to be very sick of curling. But again, precision is key. You have to go slowly and take those smaller sections, especially in this part. This is the part that is going to get super manipulated. We're going to be working through it a bunch. You know, this is the part that people want to put their fingers through, even when we tell them not to. It's important to not run out of steam here. You have to still use those smaller sections. Ooh, look at that nice tight back comb. Push it against their head. They love that. So it looks like we've got about 2 sections left, and then I will start the comb out process. And this is the part I really wished I could have sped up a little bit for you because, you know, it's getting a little redundant. It is just still so many curls. I think we have like 3 or 4 left, and I am probably in my head at the time of recording this going, please God, just let me get to the end. And also by this point, I have probably burned my fingers at least twice. But the one thing I want you to notice while I am curling this, once my arm gets out of the way, those back curls, look at the spring of those, okay? Those remind me of some Dolly Parton 1980 curls. Look at those bad boys. They are going to do beautifully when they are pulled out because look at it, they've barely moved. There's a couple little stragglers down there that have pulled out a tiny bit, but for the most part, them bad boys is doing great. So, finishing up curling here, still curling, praying for this to be over. Looks like that guy was giving me a little bit of fits, as it happens, especially when you are not using a clamp. Sometimes you have to rewrap the hair a few times, and it is especially frustrating when you are towards the end and just want to put that curling iron down. So there I am again, twisting the hair back and pinning it in place. Last section. Do we have a last section? What do you think? Yes, last section. Finally. Maybe when I get really good at editing these videos, I could put some like boppy music in the kind of dead air time. So you just don't have to listen to my voice over and over and over. But here we are coming up on the last 2 curls. You can see that obviously the curls are starting a little higher here in this section, simply because we need that wave pattern to start a little higher in the front. I'm still curling on base, but my curling iron is about 1 inch off of the scalp, so that I'm having a little bit of a smooth volume towards the front. You'll kind of see that as we work towards the front when I'm doing the comb out. And you'll be able to see that a little more. But this higher situation here, that's just going to help us have a really beautiful comb out towards the back. Looking good, girlfriend. And that is me showing you how perfectly concise those curls are. Ridges in the same spot. It looks like this is the Kenra 14. I'm still using the working spray, giving it an all over blast because, again, it is not time yet to go in with the super hold. That will make my job 10 times harder. And on thick hair, this comb out is already a little challenging. So I know this hurts some people's heart. After curling all those curls, it can be very scary to go in and comb it all out, but this is the job. And at first, it is not going to be perfect. It's going to be frustrating. You're going to be a little concerned that you may have done something wrong, but it will all come together in the end. You really have to work with the hair at this point. You can see here, my curls are matching up almost perfectly. I'm using my hands to kind of really seal those creases in. This is very similar to what you learn in beauty school when you are doing a, what are they called? Finger waves. You're keeping that S pattern. So I am combing, I am manipulating the hair. I'm going to clip this spot and in the curl below simply because I have so much more work to do towards the ends that I don't want to fully pull out the ridges that I've already put in, if that makes sense. I just don't want to keep yanking on the same spot of hair and pulling my ridges down. I want to maintain them where they are. And look at that bounce. Look at that bounce. So this part takes time and patience. Just like it takes time and patience to curl, it takes time and patience to style. Matching up here, the curls from the sides to the back can be, it requires mental fortitude. It's going to take time. You are going to have to work the hair. You are probably going to have to use a couple different tools. If we had gone in and done like you see in so many videos that we see online where they go in and they are backcombing each curl kind of as they come out, I think that process would make that a lot easier. This part where we're combining the ridges, right? Because the backcomb would be in there, it would be easier to match up. I have not fully mastered that look where I'm backcombing each curl without it looking a little messy. So that's something I am still working on. This is what I do instead. And I also really like here that, those looks where they backcomb each curl, I feel like they look so voluminous, like so voluminous. And that is great. And it looks wonderful on so many people. But I really do feel like this look that I give my brides, they all love it. It feels soft. It feels vintage and luxurious. But who knows? I am going to practice the other way of doing this and I'll let you know. Maybe that's the easier way. But at this point, this has been my go-to for years. And considering this style is so difficult for so many people, and because it looks different on every person, I like to stick with what I know. And what I know, it works, right? It works. So you can see here again, I am clipping because the bottom, it takes a little more work to get those bottom ridges looking nice. Especially this dolly, like she could really use another haircut. She gets played with a lot. So I'm not necessarily clipping them so I can hold those ridges tight. I'm clipping them so that I'm holding them where they are. I'm not consistently raking through them, which is going to loosen the ridges. It's going to help it fall faster. And I don't want that. I want these to stay nice and firm and right where they are. I mean, look at that bounce. So this part, it gets a little frustrating. You can see that. My curls, because they don't match up perfect in every single spot, it's a little harder. You have to work to combine it. And you'll see me here working through it to combine it. You have to take the time. It's going to take time to get through it. You'll see me often using my hand in place. Sometimes I use a hairspray bottle, but it just takes time to combine it. I think if you were doing curls that were a lot looser, it would be a lot easier, right? It's a lot looser of a style, so the ridges don't need to be as concise. They don't need to match up perfectly. But for a bride who's going to be wearing this for, sometimes this is like a 10, 12-hour look for her, depending on when she gets ready in the morning. It's important to keep those curls smaller and tighter and to keep these waves up as high as you can and to keep them as firm as you can now, because they are just, gravity's going to do its job. It's just going to pull those waves farther and farther down. So it's just like how we will tell people, like, we want it to start a tiny bit curlier because gravity is gravity. So that's kind of how we are here. This will loosen, but because we have kept our curls nice and crisp, it's just going to loosen into softer waves with the same pattern. I'm not going to completely lose my top crease, my top wave. It's just going to all soften. But look at how pretty those are starting to look. Those darn ends, though. But most people have ends that are less than ideal, so I guess it's not such a big deal that her hair isn't entirely perfect. I'm letting out those top ones now because I'm going to start styling the front of her hair. Combing through, I'm situating, see how that wave is going to start a little higher here, but I'm trying my best to kind of match that up. It's not going to be a perfect match because I want that front wave around her face to be a little bit higher, but it'll get close. It'll blend in. And then I'm combing through a little bit in the front so there's no back comb poking through there. So a lot of people, when they do this look, they really struggle with that front section looking kind of like a sausage curl. You can see that those curls really want to curl into one curl. They really want to grab each other and just spin into one giant curl. So something I do to prevent that is often I will go in and back comb a little bit underneath this. So like right underneath that top layer, I will give it a light back comb, and that's going to help the hair not curl into itself so that it really stays with the other hair in the nice smooth ridges rather than just like one curl. I'm using the Spray Wax by Big Sexy Hair. This is amazing. It does a lot of work for you in terms of smoothing the hair, hiding the cuticle. I've in the past used a lot of oil mixed with like a taffy of some sort to really smooth the hair and have it keep some of its hold. With the Spray Wax, you really don't need to do that. This does it for you. You don't have to get your hands all sticky, and it doesn't weigh the hair down. That being said, if you use too much of it, yes, it's going to weigh the hair down. It's going to feel a little greasy, but you can see I've sprayed this quite a few times, and it's really just smoothing the cuticle, taking the frizz out, and just really giving it a super polished look. We're coming up on the end here. I think we have like 2 minutes left. I am going in, doing my final kind of blending, really working it through. And you can see this has not been easy. I have had to fight for these curls. So if this style isn't necessarily easy for you, that makes sense. It is kind of frustrating. You really have to work for it. It's not an easy boho half up look. It requires time and patience to get it where you want it to be. I just want you to see here, like, so the way I'm combing through it, I'm just trying to make sure those waves are consistent and pretty in the front. It's so much combing, you guys. It's just combing and combing and combing. But everything that I end up doing here is just going to make that look so much better for her. And notice, I don't have a big sausage curl. It didn't all curl into itself. You didn't see me doing any back combing there, but just the consistency, like the constant combing through it and restyling and shaping the hair is helping me. Sometimes I don't need to do that back combing. Sometimes it's really just continuously working the hair, using product, making sure it is staying together and not rolling into itself. I mean, look at her. She's looking fabulous. I mean, what a babe, right? She even has eyelashes, you guys. I'm kind of jealous. This doll is prettier than I am, and it's a bit annoying. But there you have it. Beautiful, nicely shaped Hollywood waves. I hope that you all got something out of this video. You can see it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And I hope this helps.